you go out of your way, if you're Kentucky, right? You're the Kentucky Wildcats, and you go out of your way, the fans, the administration, to push John Calipari out. And look, I'm not the biggest Calipari supporter. I don't think the guy's the greatest coach ever seen. He's not the greatest thing since sliced bread, but he's a solid basketball coach. The guy's won a national title. He's been to a couple more. He's been to multiple Final Fours. He's won everywhere he's been. Great recruiter. And the grass is not always greener on the other side. Not only did we see exactly what we talked about last week, which is who would want that job when he got pushed out? If Calipari's getting pushed out there, why would anybody want to leave? 10 years ago, greatest job, anybody would have left their job to take it. Now, nobody wants that job. And so they revert to hiring a guy who played for Kentucky, which is, I guess, why they hired him. But Mark Pope, the BYU head coach. But listen to this, right? So what was the main reason that they pushed Cal out? What was the issue with it?
Not being able to win tournament games.
Right. Specifically losing early in the tournament. Well, not being able to win tournament games. You know how many NCAA tournament victories Mark Pope has as a head coach? 0. He has 0. Okay? He's 0-2 as a head coach. He first coached back at Utah Valley, where he did not make the NCAA tournament, never won a regular season or a postseason tournament. I think they went to the CBI a couple times. Comes to BYU. They lost the only other year before this year. They lost in the first round. I believe they were a 7 or a 10 seed. Lost in the first round. And then they play this year. And it's the exact same thing that happened to John Calipari, right? They are the 3 seed. They lose to Oakland. BYU is actually supposed to be a 5 seed, but because they can't play on Sundays, they moved them to a 6 seed. So this was a 5 seed caliber team, and they lose to Duquesne. And a Duquesne team with no offense, way worse. You think BYU was like a 9-point, 10-point favorite in that game. So you go and they don't fire him, but they basically parted ways because of that, because he had so much issues winning in the first round and the early rounds, and you go hire a guy who's never won in the first round, never won an NCAA tournament game. It makes absolutely 0 sense. I do not understand what in the world the Kentucky Wildcats were thinking. The only thing I can think of is legitimately they just could not find anyone else, and he played at Kentucky. So I guess that's why they hired him. But I looked back. Did you know this? Even as an assistant, everywhere Mark Pope's been an assistant, never won an NCAA tournament game, even as an assistant. So in his entire coaching career, he has never won an NCAA tournament game. This guy's the head coach at fucking Kentucky. Are you kidding me? And then you have the fact that Cal had one of the best recruiting classes in the country coming in. They had 6 4- or 5-star recruits coming in, not to mention Reed Wagner, I believe. Is it Reed Wagner? DJ Wagner, sorry. DJ Wagner was probably coming back. Ivisevich, who was their big Russian center, was probably coming back. Even Reed Shepard, who I think is going pro, was considering coming back. All those guys, with the exception of Shepard, he's going to go pro. Those other 2 guys transferred. They both entered the transfer portal 2 days ago. And then you look at their recruits. Here are the recruits that they lost. They had the number 3 player in North Carolina, a 5-star prospect, 14th in the top 100. He leaves, enters the decommits from Kentucky. Carter Knox, number 3 player in Florida, 4-star recruit, 24th in the ESPN 100. He decommits. They had Somto Cyril, the number 3 player in Georgia, 4-star, top 50 player, decommits. And then today, they lose their 4th player, the number 2 player in New York, Boogie Fland. He's a 5-star, top 20 ESPN 100 player. He decommits. They have
Great name, Boogie.
Boogie Fland. Yeah, how about that? Only 2 players left, and that's if they keep them, right? It's usually a snowball effect. If all those guys have decommitted, are they going to be able to keep the other 2? Maybe, maybe not. They're losing their entire recruiting class. They're losing all the guys who possibly could have come back. For what? Because they were tired of Calipari, and the fans and the administration did this. And I really do. I hope Arkansas has a phenomenal year, and I hope Kentucky sucks. And I'm not an Arkansas fan, and I've never been a Cal fan. I just hate that is what happened and how it transpired, and I think Kentucky just looks absolutely moronic for how this played out. Like, couldn't have played out worse for them, couldn't have played out better for Cal.
Well, yeah, it looks bad. They thought that they would go out and get whoever they wanted, and then they realized it's like, okay, well, if you're pushing Cal out after giving him a lifetime contract, and then the nature of college basketball now with the transfer portal and all that, and NIL, like, am I really going to go take that job? I lost my whole recruiting class. They're going to give me 2 years tops to be good. Like, how am I going to be good in 2 years? And that's how you end up with it's a Mark Pope. Is that right? I know his last name is
Yeah.
Pope. Mark Pope. I will say this. I thought it was a crazy hire, but Mark Pope played for Slick Rick Pitino at Kentucky, and Slick Rick said there's no one around that bleeds more blue than Mark Pope, and it was a good hire by Kentucky. So if it's good enough for Slick Rick, it's good enough for me.
Wait, you said Pope played for?
I'm pretty sure.
For Rick
that's
Pitino?
that's the only
No,
reason.
that makes sense.
Why he would, I assume, and the time I think
Yeah, that
it
makes
checks
sense.
out. But yeah,
That makes
so
sense.
he liked the hire. I don't know. Yeah, he hadn't won any tournament games, but we talked about it. We touched on it with NC State's coach, right? It's like, is this all we're judging coaches on tournament games, right? It's like, well, that guy they should hire him right away
Right.
because he won four games with NC State or whatever, how many games it was.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I don't know. I thought it was a bizarre hire. I think Billy Donovan wasn't going to come. I think I think that's who they wanted. He had already turned them down before, apparently. Right. So yeah, I just don't think they think of it as being like the premier job in college basketball. But when you force out a guy who you gave a lifetime contract like 2 years ago, it's like,
yeah,
okay, why are you going to go from a good program to take that? Mark Pope, obviously it makes sense. It's where he played college basketball.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not saying the hire makes sense. Like for him, if he got offered the job, he was running there. So,
right.
And they probably like that in a sense. It's like, why don't we just go get one of our own? Let's get him. He did do a pretty good job with BYU. They're pretty good this year. Obviously they got like shellacked by Duquesne in the first round, but I don't know. We'll see how it turns out. It's going to be rough for him early, especially losing all those recruits.
They're going to have a bad year.
I assume he'll have a couple guys from BYU come with him, 2 or 3, right?
I don't know how many of those guys at BYU could really play at Kentucky.
Well, this year anyway. They might.
No,
that
this
might be
year
all
they
have,
could
yeah.
100%. But I look at their two big men. You have the Egyptian assassin Ali Khalifa over there. I don't think that guy could play at most D2 schools, and he was somehow starting for BYU. Like I don't think Mark Pope did that good of a job at BYU. It was okay. Like BYU's been good for a while. They won in the tournament when they had Fredette for a couple years and got to the Sweet 16 once. So it's not like he had success there. It's not like he had a great recruiting class. They have one point guard, I guess, who came off the bench who's pretty good. I could see him going, but that's about it. Yeah, I also thought it was funny before we move on to the Masters. The press conference with Cal, he's like, I met with the team. There is no team. So we got to put together a roster here because I had 3 guys in there who I talked to, and all of them are in the transfer portal, and that's legitimately true. They had nobody there. Now, he'll have no problem getting guys there. Guarantee you, some of those guys who decommitted from Kentucky, at least 2 of those 4 will end up in Arkansas.
Him there.
I would be shocked otherwise. And you'll see some other guys in the transfer portal. There's so many guys. We were looking at the list the other day of the transfer portal, and it's just absolutely absurd. The names of guys, you've got at the top of the list, Omar Ballo, the best player for Arizona, transferring after getting to a Sweet 16. John L. Davis, that's understandable because his coach left, but John L. Davis leaving FAU, AJ Storr leaving Wisconsin, Tucker DeVries going to West Virginia.
Did Storr go somewhere?
He's 100% projected to Illinois.
Oh, okay.
That's where he's projected to go.
You shouldn't be able to transfer in conference.
100%. We've said this before. You should not be able to transfer in conference. The only way I would think it would be allowed is if your coach went from school to school, then it would be okay.
Makes sense, yeah.
Other than that, you should not be able to leave. I think that's ridiculous. Yeah, but some of these other guys, great Osabor from Utah State, Kobe Johnson going from USC to UCLA, Mark Mitchell transferring from Duke to Kansas State, Jonas Adu, the starting center for Tennessee. These are big-time guys, right? It's not – you think about the transfer portal, and a lot of those guys tend to be, at least what I've seen in the past couple of years since it started to become a big thing, it's been lower-level guys going up or guys who didn't play going down. These are guys who played a lot of minutes, or for example, Omar Ballo or AJ Storr. They were the best player on their team, on a big-time team who went to the tournament.
They're just leaving, trying to get as much money as they can. That's all it is, yeah.
And that they need
no loyalty
rules.
anymore.
They need rules.
All about the Benjamins, baby.
2-year contracts. 2-year contracts, you forfeit your NIL money if you leave. That's what I think they have to do.
No, yeah, they got to do something like that, like a 2-year deal. You can't be in the portal you have to commit at least 2 years. You can't be in the portal every year. That's
Agreed.
what's going to happen. It's like these guys, it's going to be constant, just in the portal.
You only get to leave if your coach leaves, or if you've been there, you can leave one time after 2 years.
Yeah, I would say you
or two times, but you have to say 2 at a time.
I think you should only be able to transfer one time
unless your coach leaves. I agree with that. That's probably a good
you
system.
sign 2-year deals. I think that's the way to do it.